Lero, and the show is Friday Night Debate.
And in that process of accepting people, introducing those people to Jesus Christ, introducing them to the steps and the precepts of Jesus Christ.
Is disempowering for me. So going back to being an African right now, if you talk to a young person in Africa and tell them to go back to the basics, I'll say go to family.
Power bank, which was established to say that we want youths to gain funds.
So I wish you can refer to me the examples of these extroverts that have made it today for us to prove and support your notion.
To really spend the time in doing.
My name is Lero, and the talk show is Friday Night Debate. Today I'm joined by two ladies in the studio. Welcome to the show, ladies. Hi. Can you please introduce yourself to the viewers?
My name is Jacqueline. I'm the founder of Ugandan Empire Youth Organization, and I'm also an advocate for academic freedom, sexual and reproductive health rights, and the ability to stand up for youth rights within our nation.
Wow.
Hi there, I'm Charity Dube. I work as a counselor, but I'm a development practitioner. I work for a local NGO, which targets sex workers and the LGBTI community.
Wow, interesting. So today the House would like to propose that introverts, they become more successful in life as compared to extroverts. Jacqueline, do we agree?
Yes, definitely. Well, my opening statement would be this: never judge the swimming skills of a fish based on its ability to climb a tree. So as much as we can refer to personal development or a person's personality, but we can never truly have it as the actual factor contributing to one being successful. But for the sake of the debate, definitely we're going to explore that. On my own opinion, I think it's based usually on the environment being suitable and hard work and definitely God's grace for you to be successful. But then for me to support the notion that says introverts are more successful than extroverts, it comes to the point where we say success isn't only about the figures in your bank account. No, it explores beyond that. We talk about how your relationships socially are like, and also we explore on how you are doing in your standard of living within your environment. So with my own opinion, I would like to go into this aspect. You see a salesman of a Benz and the owner of the Benz. Now, the salesman of a Benz is actually an extrovert. They can be able to talk and they are successful more than their counterparts or their salesmen. But the person who gets more money above everyone else is the owner of the brand Benz. Now, they are introverts. You never see the Benz owner talking on motivational speeches or doing that, because to them, they are more focused on planning and executing the Benz, which the salesman is actually out there selling. So now you look into the aspect that they are both successful, but there is one who is more successful. Now we're looking into the aspects of the Benz owner being more successful. And then we look into, I'd like to bring you into, if most of you watch Japanese movies and African movies. I mean, if you look at these movies, usually in an African movie, there is so much more talking compared to Japanese movies. Now, usually movies are reflecting a social interaction that is in existence within a community. African community, they are more talkative than executive. While when you go to a Japanese community, even by analysis, they're actually introverts there more than extroverts. They focus mostly on work more than talking and being all publicly complaining. They're actually on executing their own vision. That's how they become more successful. That's how the economy is more advanced than the African society. And also in reading, definitely extroverts, I would agree, in reading sense, they're definitely more successful because they develop more influential relationships with people. But then when you come to reality, what benefit is it when you're an extrovert and you are talkative, you led an interview with Sarah Masiwa, but you didn't plan for a business proposal with Sarah Masiwa? Will it yield anything? No, it wouldn't, right? So then we look into statistics. The science tells us 70% of CEOs within the world are actually introverts. That goes to Warren Buffett, Bill Gates. They describe themselves as introverts. Then when you go 96% of leaders, which are presumed by society to be better leaders, they are actually introverts. And then they grow to extroverts because they're sharing their success. Now do you see the person was an introvert, then they succeeded, then they're now sharing their success through being an extrovert. But the initial parts that I want us all to understand is we're walking into a world that is revolutionized by technology. Everyone else wants to be in a technological world. But have you met IT minutes? I mean, those guys don't talk to anyone, but they're focused on their computers, but they're the one who are basically holding the power middle for the whole control system of growth and development. So you look into the aspects that who has more success. And for me, I believe that it's introverts. I see the social ideology of saying that extroverts get a success medal very disruptive, especially now young generation, because you are preaching to a person that the more relationships you have, the more connections you have, gets you success instead of merit. So you are looking into a society, going into an economy that believes that the more connections I have gets me a better chance. The more talkative and outspoken I am gets me a better chance. Yet it's actually through hard work and merit, which young people need to understand throughout the time. So in my own perspective, introverts, definitely they're shy, they're afraid to speak out, of course. I mean, there's no one without flaws. But then you look into the aspect that says, I'm sure as a psychologist you understand the aspect of saying there should be more introspection than looking in the outside, because we believe that more of what you need to succeed is already inside. Right now there's a wave of motivation along the whole planet, motivational talk like the one you're conducting. It's saying that look inside externally, look inside internally, then externally. Now how are you going to look internal if you are busy out there speaking to the people? Less planning and concentrating on who you are. So in my own say, I would say let people be introverts, because then it puts you in a position where you are more successful. Okay. But then, of course, I'm saying they are both successful. Introverts are just more.
Thank you for that. Charity, as a counselor, you get to meet all sorts of people, the introverts, the extroverts. Is she correct?
To a certain extent, to a certain degree or diploma, she is correct. But I would like to differ slightly. And she has spoken a lot. Being an introvert, she has spoken too much. She has actually...
Maybe she's just representing
I think so. I think she's just representing... She has outspoken. She has overstepped her boundaries. But anyway, the people that we meet, you know, they agree with what she said, but also would like to a certain degree disagree with what she has said. Because as an introvert, as she rightly said, they think before they act, as opposed to the extroverts. The extroverts are those people who think, and while they're doing, they're action-packed, you know?
Yes.
And that allows them to move a mile. But for an introvert, they think, you know, I'm talking from the perspective of being a counselor. These people at times are abused. For example, an introvert, they're abused, and it takes them time to react to that abuse. They are still contemplating, should I report? Should I what? But for an extrovert, the minute it happens, they seek assistance.
Yes, yes.
So introverts, really at times, they don't benefit as much as the extroverts in a counseling setup. Because even in the session, an introvert will take time. We need to first establish rapport, maybe first session. But she was raped yesterday. She goes back, we make for a second review. I see her, and also it takes me time to get into her. But with an extrovert, the very first day we meet, she would just get to the point, this is what happened to me. And assistance is rendered.
But when we are looking at the entrepreneurship side or the business side,
when I will still would want to stand with the extroverts. They are more successful even in the business world. They're easy to network. It doesn't take them time to make connections.
Yes.
Because it's all about, we're living in this world, in this reality, in this environment where it's all about connections. They connect easily, and then they establish a business deal, and it moves on. And while they're connecting, opposed to the introvert wants to think and see and plan and put this plan and then implement the plan. But with the extrovert, they go for it. While she or he is going for it, they're also deciding, is this a correct move? If not, they quickly make a detour. Yeah. So.
Okay. Well, in my own opinion, by my own understanding, when you talk about entrepreneurship, yes, it's okay to take risks. We all encourage that. But then there's always that aspect to say a successful entrepreneur takes calculated risk.
Because we can all wish to invest in an economy, but unless you calculate the risk you are about to take, you are very much bound to fail. So we are looking into an introvert who first plans before execution, because what is leading to a whole economic background is because everyone else is fast to act before properly planning what you're about to do. I would rather say have one network with a great plan, and then you have analyzed that this is the network that will result in a breakthrough, then spend your whole life networking with a whole bunch of people. With the quotas you discover, they're not going to give products to what you want. So an entrepreneur, you want to make money, you want to be able to succeed financially. And one of the biggest things to do behind every financial successful person, research. And that can happen when you're busy acting on it. You need to first research, get your background right, get your financial facts right, and then you execute. Because in that way you would understand the market, you would understand the product you want to go on with as an entrepreneur is more successful.
Jackie, isn't it also depends with the line of business or the kind of entrepreneurship. As for me, I'm a talk show host. I can't be an introvert, but I can be an extrovert and still be successful.
But then look at it. In an introvert, we're not saying the person doesn't speak.
Okay.
Even if you look at that definition, we're saying they're not outspoken, they don't make network easily. But then what we're saying is a person can be able to speak when given a platform. Because they have given more time to prepare and make research on what they're about to talk. We're talking to an extrovert who is quick to have your words proceed from a mouth, even in a talk show. But then what you are saying doesn't even make sense. But an introvert, what they do, if you like you are a talk show host, instead of quickly setting up the cameras and then we're acting, then we find out the mistakes when you're talking. No, you're going to research. I need a proper set. I need a proper camera. I need my content to add value. You can't do that when you're acting. You need to be an introvert in that aspect. So we need to understand that an introvert, you're not basing on the words you say, how many words you're going to say. No, your personality. How are you personally? Are you a person who speaks easily or who doesn't? So I think
Do you want to engage?
Yes, on that, Jackie, if we're talking now in this business world,
Yes.
in today's world,
yes.
nothing is constant. Things are moving, inflation. So if you take time to think, take time to calculate, you calculate on today's rates, tomorrow the rates are off. You will not get
How do you
anywhere. As an introvert,
Uh-huh.
you will not succeed.
You would not.
You will not.
I wish that were true, but then when you look into statistics, we got Bill Gates out there, he's an introvert. So sometimes...
Bill Gates is then, was
Yes.
then when he established it.
But then-
The inflation was not so high.
Okay.
Business today's world.
So I wish you can refer to me the examples of these extroverts that have made it today for us to prove and support your notion. Because then we are looking into extroverts that are quick to say and suggest something, but are not backed up by facts. So I would like you to make a list, just a little bit like 5 people, of your extroverts that have succeeded in this very current situation. I'd love to say they're more successful.
I have. Locally, I might not name names.
Yeah. Okay.
But they are there for today's benefit. They do it and they move on.
Can I know this name so we know we base on facts?
Okay.
Outside this, I will share. Outside this, I will share.
We'll take it out.
For stigmatization sake, right?
Yes, definitely we understand.
I need to observe confidentiality.
Okay.
Yes,
But
yes.
I will confide in you out of this
Okay,
platform.
okay. Ladies, in as much as we may disagree to agree, we still have introverts out there, we still have extroverts. So how can an extrovert, succeed in today's world?
An extrovert or an introvert?
No, an
An extrovert.
extrovert. Yes.
As we say, this is just a personalities, these are just traits, but people are people. The person as an extrovert, even if they are so much outgoing, they must put limits.
Okay.
That I must accept and I must stick to. They must put certain limits, that guidelines that I will work this way. As much as I can talk and say, you know what, Lee, this is this, but I must follow it up also after I've sort of sat down or slept over my business plan and say, you know what, I need to plan a bit here and there. We need to be realistic. It is our nature to just speak, but it doesn't take away that intelligence or that being organized. We are still very organized. I can speak because that's my nature. When you say something, I must respond. And I will respond. But I will go back and sit down and sleep over it and go back and apply the practical part. then that way there's guarantee of success.
Okay. JK, in your own opinion, how can, we're still talking about extroverts, how can they be successful?
For me, I believe that, as she said, you need to explore both sides. But then I always say that sometimes, instead of trying so hard to explore the other parts, you can use what you have to your advantage. There was a previous debate that talked about comparative advantage. Sometimes you have to look and use what you have to acquire what you want to have. As an extrovert, you are quick at having networks, but that's the thing about entrepreneur. If you can't do what you want to do, get someone else who's better at it. So an introvert can quickly have networks. So they can literally have an introvert working for them to acquire what they want to do. So you are using what you have, which are your networking skills, but then surround yourself with people who will fill in the weaknesses that you have. And that way you can succeed. Because if you try and shift your personality, then what does end up losing yourself? So I need you to be as who you are, and then in your weakness as an extrovert, look for people who can support you, and then you succeed your vision.
Let's now give advice to the introverts.
The introverts, you know, as we said, I think earlier on, that those people who look within first, and that's where the entire strength of a human being, even when I go back to my counseling setup, you always look within. All the remedies, all solutions are within. So as she said, I would want to concur with her. You know, we are humans trading on this platform. We've got weaknesses and strengths. So you identify your strength, you identify your weakness, and you bring in the other parts on board to come up with you and patch up where you lack, lift you up where you are falling down. So introverts can still plan because they're very good at planning, but get someone in who's going to implement for them.
You agree?
Yes, I do. And I would also want to advise an introvert that the best way to work with it, to curb the situation she raised, which is true. Many people end up planning for 5 years and they never execute. They take 20 years. I'm going to make the talk show. And it never happens. So as an introvert, work with time. Let time be your best friend. Place deadlines to say, I'm going to do your plan, your research, so you know that rates change every day. So you need to know that if you're going to do something, execute it within 24 hours. So I would say for an introvert, let time be your best friend. In that way, you will probably succeed.
Thank you so much, ladies. Anyone who who wants to say something before we close the show?
I would like to say there's this term which is being introduced for people with two personalities. Yes, I would say that I think it puts you in a better position if you can explore that. I mean, you would have both of advantages. You just take in the most strengths and then the weaknesses you carry in other ways. I think it puts you in a better, because the moment you lean towards one, you are basically limiting what you can do. I believe that young people, you are limitless of what you can do. Innovation is at your disposal. It takes you everywhere. But you can't do that when you are stuck in only one position.
That's him once again. Can you elaborate on that?
It's actually where these two, the introversion and extroversion, come together. You know, the extremes on both sides. But when you come together and try and put it at neutral, you become an ambivalent.
Okay.
You know, you learn. You know, these are personalities, these are traits. So you can try and groom me to be an introvert, and I will be.
Oh,
yes.
That's awesome.
You can groom me to be an extrovert. And
let's all become introverts then.
Let's find a mutual space.
Yeah.
A mutual space where we can operate from, where we can coexist.
Yeah. Okay.
You know, I think that is the best. You find a common ground, we coexist on that ground.
Yeah.
But you can tame me into being an introvert. You can tame me into being an extrovert.
Okay. Any last words you want to share?
Not much, except that let's find the common ground, let's coexist together.
Hi guys, thank you very much for inviting me to this discussion. I just thought I would send in my thoughts on the statement in motion that introverts become more successful than extroverts. So, for starters, I think it's important for us to be able to define what success is, because obviously, when we're talking about success, what success is to one person is different to the next. What we see perhaps on the external as success, somebody running a multi-million dollar company, or somebody playing football in the Premier League, none of those can essentially equate to success. It all depends on how the individual defines that. Whilst on the external, we may be able to look at that and say, wow, that person is successful. I think success is individually defined. So, for starters, we need to be able to define what success is to who and why. Because again, son of a billionaire running a multi-million company could be a failure rather than a success. Whilst on the external, we could look at it as success. So I think that's the first thing that we need to be able to clarify. Secondly, there is no real way of telling who performs better, if I may put it that way, in terms of performance. Because introverts, on one hand, they tend to be very methodical, very structured, because they spend a lot of time thinking, planning, plotting, and things like that. Whereas when you're looking at extroverts, what you tend to find with extroverts, you could have the likes of your bipolars, for example, who, when they are manic, they tend to take risks that normal people wouldn't take. They tend to risk everything without fear of losses. So that can actually provide better returns, because without risk, there is no reward. So it's not certain, neither is it true nor false, depending on who's doing what. So at the end of the day, extroverts can do better in terms of how they take risks, whereas introverts maybe in their methodical and structured way fare better. So there is no real way of saying this is true or false.
Thank you so much, ladies, for coming to the show. Thank you so much, viewers, for watching. Remember to leave your comments below, and remember to follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. It's Friday Night Debates. Until next time, remember to take care of others and yourselves as well. Bye for now.